In this lab exercise, we are going to learn about how to establish a local Git repository, which can be easily then synchronized with a centralized Git repository in Azure DevOps. So let's go and learn how to do that. First, let's set up some prerequisites. In my local computer, I downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code and installed C# extension. You can download Visual Studio Code by going into code.visualstudio.com. And you can download this application based on the platform you're using. Then you can go to the Visual Studio Marketplace and you can install the C#. Make sure you install this extension before continuing with this lab. The next step is to install Git for Windows. Make sure you download the latest one. You can download Git by going into gitforwindows.org and click on download and install on your local machine. After completing this prerequisite, configure the lab environment. To configure the lab environment, we are going to Azure DevOps demo generator.azurewebsites.net. So go to the browser and type in Azure DevOps demo generator.azurewebsite.net and click on sign in. First, let's give a name for your project. So I'm going to call it version controlling with Git in Azure Repos. Make sure you select your organization, and after that click on choose template and select a predefined template within the demo generator. And click on select template, and after that click on create project. This step would ideally take up to 2 minutes to complete. If you face any issues during this stage, please go ahead and delete this project and restart it. Alright, so our project for this lab is created successfully. The next task we are going to perform is to configure the Visual Studio Code. We are going to configure a Git credential helper to securely store the Git credential used to communicate with Azure DevOps. So to do that, let's go to the machine you have installed with Visual Studio Code and launch the Visual Studio Code and click on terminal and select new terminal. First, let's execute the command to configure the credential helper. Press enter. Next, I'm going to modify this command and run it. This command will configure your username and email for Git commits. So I just replace the parameter with my username and email and I'm going to execute them. So let's minimize it. I'm going to run this command. Yes, and hit enter. Alright, so the first task is completed. The second exercise is cloning an existing repository. And what we're going to do is we're going to clone an existing repository in the Azure DevOps portal. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to go back to my Azure DevOps project. So let's quickly refresh it. So this is the project we created in the first task. So select that. Within this project page, on the left hand side, click on repos. Getting a local copy of a Git repo is called cloning. So you can see a clone button over here. Every mainstream development tool support this and will be able to connect to Azure Repos to pull down the latest source to work with. So if you click on this ellipsis, you have many options like fork, clone, etc. So we are not going to use that. We are just going to simply click on clone and make sure you are on HTTPS and click on this copy clone URL to clipboard. You can plug this URL into any Git compatible tool to get a copy of the code base. After copying, go back to your Visual Studio Code. You can hit Ctrl+Shift+P to open the command palette. And this command palette provides an easy and convenient way to access a wide variety of tasks, including those provided by the third-party extension. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute git clone command. So I'm going to type git. You can see all other git commands over here. So select git clone, and this is where you are going to provide the URL. So I'm going to simply paste the URL we copied and hit enter. This will ask you for a local path to clone the repo to. So I'm going to go back to my local computer, select my C drive. I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to name the folder git and click on select the repository location. And if you have not logged into the Azure DevOps account, this will ask you to log in. So I've already logged in. So in your case, if you have not done it, you have to log in and click on open to open the clone repository. You can ignore any sort of warnings raised about opening the project because this solution may not be in a buildable state. But that's okay since we are going to focus on working with Git and building the project itself is not necessary. So close on all of these warnings. Now we have cloned the project. The next task, we are going to do saving work with commits. When you make changes to your files, Git will record the changes in the local repository. You can select the changes that you want to commit by staging the changes. Commits are always made against your local Git repository. You don't have to worry about the commit being perfect or ready to share with others. You can make more commits as you continue to work and push the changes to others when they are ready to be shared. And you might be wondering, what is commit? Git commits consist of the following. Git keeps the content of all file changes in your repo in your commits. This keeps it fast and allows intelligent merging. Commit consists of a reference of parent commits, and Git manages your code history using these references. So let's go and start doing this lab. First, go to the Explorer tab and click on the Explorer tab and open the Parts Unlimited ASP.NET 45. Go under SRC, under Parts Unlimited website, go to Models, click on cart item.cs. What we are going to do is we are going to add a comment in the file. It doesn't really matter what the comment is, since the goal is just to make the change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an enter here, and I'm going to add a line called my first change, and I'm going to go to file and click on save. You can see there is one here at the source control. So let's go to the source control panel and click on source control, and you can commit by adding a comment in the message. I'm going to type in my commit, and you just need to press Control and enter to commit it locally. I'm going to enter Control and enter. So this have ideally saved the commit locally. So if you notice at the bottom right next to master, you can see the synchronize changes box or button. So if you click on it, and this action will pull and push commits from and to origin and master. I'm going to press OK. So this is now synchronizing. After this, we are going to review the commits. To review the commit, we have to go to the Azure DevOps portal. So I'm going to go back to the Azure DevOps portal. This time under repos, I'm going to click on commits. Here under commits, you can see the commit which I made, which is my commit, and you can see the changes highlighted here. Now you know how to review the commit. Now let's go and do the staging changes. The staging changes allows you to be selectively add certain files to a commit while passing over the changes made in the other files. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to modify it to second change now instead of first. And let's go and quickly save the file. And I'm going to open one more file. This time go back to the Explorer. Go to category.cs, and I'm going to add one more line. I'm going to call my third change and go back and save the file. If you notice, under source code, now we have two changes pending. Let's go back to the source control. So this plus symbol is called stage changes. So for the cart item CS, so I'm gonna press the stage changes button. Click that. As you can see now, the changes is been merged. And this will prepare the cart item.cs for committing without the category.cs. Now let's go and add a message called added comments, and click on this ellipsis and go to commit and click on commit staged. Now we have one synchronization pending, so I'm going to click on synchronize now. Click OK. This will synchronize the committed changes with the server. Note that since only the stage changes are committed, the other changes are still pending locally. You can see that there is one commit still pending because we have only done the stage commit. So that's the end of staging changes. So under saving work with commits, we have completed committing changes, how to review these commits, and how you can do staging changes. In the next lab, we are going to do how to do reviewing history. The task what we're going to perform is to compare files. So let's go and do that. Git uses the parent reference information stored in each commit to manage a full history of your development. You can easily review this commit history to find out when file changes were made and determine differences between versions of your code using the terminal or from one of the many Visual Studio Code extensions available. You can also review changes using the Azure DevOps portal. So let's go and do the task one, which is the comparing files. Under the source control tab, click on the category CS. This comparison view is open to enable you to easily locate the changes you have made. In this case, it's just the one comment which you have made, so that is not added here. So it's easy for us to compare. Other way of comparing is to go to the commits view in the Azure DevOps project. So let's go back to the Azure DevOps and let's go back under repos and click on commits. So if you go under repo and click on branches, you can see here some of the branches and merges. This provides a convenient way to visualize when and how changes were made to the source. So if you want to compare, click on compare and you can click on these commits to see the changes what you have made and you can compare the changes. And now let's go back to commits now and let's see some of the commits here. So I'm gonna pick one which is merged PR27. So click on this ellipsis and click on browse files. And again, this view offers the ability to navigate around the state of the source at the commit. So you can review and download these files. Click on this ellipsis again and you can download as zip. Or if you want to just download this file, you can just download a single file committed as well. So that's how you compare these commits. In the next exercise, we are going to work with the branches. So you can manage the work in your Azure DevOps Git repo from the branches view on the web. You can also customize the view to track the branches you care most about, so you can stay on top of the changes made by your team. So committing changes to a branch will not affect other branches, and you can share branches with others without having to merge the changes into the main project. You can also create new branches to isolate changes for a feature or a bug fix from your master branch and other work. Since the branches are lightweight, switching between branches is quick and easy. Git does not create multiple copies of your source when working with branches, but rather uses the history information stored in the commits to recreate these files on a branch when you start working on it. So let's go and create a new branch in your local repository. So let's go and open your Visual Studio Code, and this time click on master on the bottom left corner, and with the option provided, select the second option, which is create new branch from. So select that, give a branch name. I'm gonna give dev and hit enter and select master as the reference branch. So select master. If you notice, this changed back to dev. And now you're working on the dev branch. So that's how you create a new branch in your local repository. Now let's look into some other branching techniques like working with branches. So for that, let's go back to our Azure DevOps portal. So you can see the branches right under repos. Click on branches. So Git keeps track of which branch you are working on and make sure that when you check out a branch, your files match the most recent commit on the branch. And branches let you work with multiple versions of the source code in the same Git repository at the same time. You can use Visual Studio Code to publish, check out, and delete branches. So let me show you how you can publish these branches using Visual Studio Code. So let's launch Visual Studio Code now. And right next to the dev branch we just created, you can see there is an upload to cloud button. So this is known as publish changes. So click on publish branch. So now this is published. If I go back to my Azure DevOps portal and let's quickly refresh, instead of that, I'm going to go back to repos and go back to branches again. And now we will be able to see the newly created dev branch. And to delete a newly created branch, all you have to do is click on this ellipsis and click on delete branch and click on delete. Now, if we go back to the Visual Studio Code, let's click on the dev branch. You can see now that there are two dev branches listed. The local dev branch is there because it's not deleted when the server branch is deleted. And the server is there because it hasn't been pruned. So select the master branch to check it out. So click on the master one, click on view command palette. And this time I'm going to type in git delete branch and hit enter. And you can see that there is only one branch available. and this is the local branch. So click on this local branch to select it. Now if you go back and select the master, if you notice here, the local dev branch is gone now, but we can still see the remote origin dev. So let's open the command palette. So click on view, command palette, and type git fetch, and instead of git fetch, select git fetch prune, and this command will update the origin branch in the local snapshot and delete those that are no longer there. Now let's go back to the master and click on the master again. Now we are not able to see the origin dev branch because it's no longer in the list because we pruned it. So that's the end of this lab, which was working with branches. Now the next exercise is managing branches from Azure DevOps. In addition to all the functionality available in Visual Studio Code, you can also manage your repo branches from the Azure DevOps portal. So we're going to use Azure DevOps portal to create a new branch, delete a branch, lock a branch, and tag a release. Let's go and do that. So let's go to the Azure DevOps portal, go to repos and click on branches. Under the branches tab, click on new branch. Give a name for your branch. I'm going to call release as for a new branch, and use work items to link. Select the drop down to select one or more work items to link to this branch. So I'm going to select a bug and decline orders noticed, and I'm going to click on create. So to find the newly created branch, I'm going to quickly scroll down. You can see that the release is the newly created branch we just now created. So to see if we can find this in our Visual Studio Code, I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, click view and open command palette, and I'm going to run git fetch. Okay, one more time. I'm going to run git fetch and click on master, and let's see if we can find our release branch. Of course, as you can see that there is a new branch created called origin release, which is a remote branch. So you can click on that to check out the newly created release branch. So to delete a branch using Azure portal, let's go back to the portal again. Go back to the Azure portal, go back to your branches, go to the newly created branch, which is release. Under more actions, you can click on delete branch, and you can create, and you can click on delete to remove the branch. The next task is to show you how to lock a branch. Locking is ideal for preventing new changes that might conflict with an important merge, or to place a branch into read-only state. Alternately, you can use branch policies and pull requests instead of locking if you just want to ensure that changes in a branch are reviewed before they are merged. And locking does not prevent cloning of a repo or fetching update made in the branch into your local repo. So if you lock a branch, share with your team the reason why and make sure they know what to do to work with the branch after it is unlocked. So let me quickly show you how to lock it. So I'm going to select a branch here and select this ellipsis and click on lock. Now that you can see there is an icon next to the branch name that is locked. If you want to unlock the branch, you go back to the ellipsis and click on unlock, and the branch is unlocked. Now that you know how to lock and unlock, next is to learn how to tag a release. So to tagging a release, go under repo. This time click on tags. So if your team decide to do that, all you have to do is click on new tag or create a tag. Give a name. I'm going to call version 1.1. Select based on master branch and description, great release, and click on create. Now you have tagged this project at this release, and you could tag commits for a variety of reasons, and Azure DevOps offers the flexibility to edit and delete them as well as manage their permissions. Alright, so that concluded the lesson on managing branches from Azure DevOps. We learned about creating, deleting, locking, and tagging. The next and the last exercise is managing repositories. You can create Git repos in team projects to manage your project source code. Each Git repo has its own set of permissions and branches to isolate itself from other work in your project. We are going to do a couple of tasks. The first one is to create a new repo from Azure DevOps, and then we are going to delete and rename Git repositories. So let's go and do that. So first step is to create a new repo from Azure DevOps. So first of all, to create a new repo, so go under your existing project and click on this drop down and select new repository. I'm going to set the repository name to new repo, and I'm going to uncheck add a readme and click on create. That's it. Your repo is ready. You can now clone it with Visual Studio or your tools of choice. So to clone it with Visual Studio, all you have to do is click on clone it with Visual Studio and click on open, and I'm going to show the local folder and I'm going to open in a new workspace. Alright, so this is the newly created repo. Now let's go back to the Azure DevOps project, and sometimes you will need to rename or delete a repo. So let me show you how you can do that. So first, let's go back to Azure DevOps portal. Here, go under project settings, select repositories and click on the ellipsis, and this gives you an option to either rename the repo or you can simply delete. By giving the name of the repository, it will allow you to delete. Alright, so that's the end of this task. I hope the information provided in this Azure Repo Lab was useful. I will see you on the next one. Until then, take care.